How's it going, everyone? Bass here, and today in this video I'm going to be giving you my 53-man roster prediction for the Green Bay Packers. Now, with cuts just going down to 80, the Packers have until August 31st and one more preseason game until they have to cut their roster down to 53 players. Another thing to note is the Packers can also roster 16 practice squad players. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts and opinion on who will make each position and who won't, also backing that up with PFF rankings. All right, so if we bring up the screen now and get this thing started, first and foremost, white means they are on the 53, yellow means practice squad, and then, of course, red means they are cut. All right, so starting with quarterback, obviously, Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love are making this roster. You don't have to say anything about that. And then the question remains is if they'll keep 3 quarterbacks. In my opinion, I don't think so. I think they're going to keep 2 quarterbacks. I think the Packers need those back-end roster spots for, per se, a wide receiver 7 and just overall special teams players. Theoretically, Kurt Benkert should make it to the Packers practice squad, which is where I have him here in the practice squad. And the third quarterback never really dresses anyway. Jordan Love last year never dressed. He didn't wear a real Packers jersey until this preseason in game. So, and even if you get down to your third quarterback, you're going to lose anyway. So I have 2 quarterbacks here. Obviously, Jake Dolegala here getting cut. Just brought him in because Jordan Love banged up his shoulder. But I have quarterbacks 1 and 2. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and then Kurt Benkert going to the practice squad. Now, if Kurt Benkert does get claimed by another team to be their number 2 or number 3 quarterback, definitely look for the Packers to bring in a practice squad quarterback. All right, now moving over to running back. This is where I say they keep 3 running backs because their first 2 are both starter worthy. Obviously, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, Thunder and Lightning, are going to be a great duo this year. And then the question kind of came down to who was going to be running back 3. At the beginning of camp, it was a 3-way battle. You had Kylan Hill, the rookie, you had Patrick Taylor, and Dexter Williams, the veteran. Now, in my opinion, at this rate, and I always thought Kylan Hill was going to end up being running back 3, but at this rate, I'd say it's pretty clear and locked in that Kylan Hill will be that running back 3. He's 3rd in offensive for Green Bay for PFF ranking with 82.8. Also, the number 1 rookie running back for PFF this year in preseason thus far. And in terms of offensive ratings for PFF, Patrick Taylor is the worst for Green Bay, 45.7. And Dexter Williams is the second worst with 47.2. Patrick Taylor also has a 20.3 pass block grade, while Kylan Hill, on the other hand, has an 80.2. Very big difference. Kylan Hill has been very, very impressive this preseason, and overall I think he has the talent to definitely be a very solid running back in this league, not to mention he's most likely going to be kick return 1. So this is pretty easy for me. I'm only keeping 3 running backs. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Kylan Hill. And then the 2 running backs could go on practice squad. They might just end up keeping 1, but for now I'm just going to have them both on there considering they're only keeping 3 running backs. So that's Patrick Taylor and Dexter Williams both making it to the practice squad. All right, now moving on to wide receiver. This is where things get a little bit interesting. A lot of people wonder, are they going to keep 5? Are they going to keep 6? Are they going to keep 7? Even 3 or 4 years ago, I believe they kept 8. They haven't done that under Matt LaFleur. So right now I'm going to have them keeping 7 wide receivers. Now, obviously, the first 5, just like a lot of positions on this roster, are locks. The cornerbacks are the same way. Devonta Adams, MVS, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers are all locks. So then at that point, you either, if you're going with 6 receivers, you kind of have it down to either Devon Funches or Malik Taylor making the roster. Now, both have been very, very impressive in the preseason. Now, Devon Funches only had 1 game because he was hurt for the second, but he has a 77.0 PFF grade. 6 receptions, 70 yards, but also has played a whopping 0 snaps on special teams, as expected. We never expected Devon Funches to be a special teams guy. He's never been in his entire career. Now, Malik Taylor, on the other hand, is also shown to be a very capable wide receiver. Also a 77.0 PFF ranking, same as Funches there, and a 66.1 rating on special teams, which is 7th on the team. And he has 9 receptions and 116 yards through 2 games. Overall, they're the 2 highest graded wide receivers for the Packers this preseason. So for me, it's kind of hard to pick between the 2. So that's why I have both of them on here. They both offer 2 different things. Devon Funches being that veteran wide receiver that could technically step into a number 2 wide receiver spot and put up numbers. Malik Taylor being a guy who's, a depth wide receiver, but can really contribute on special teams. So it's kind of hard just to choose one or the other. If I had to, It would probably be Malik Taylor just off the fact of special teams and saying a sixth string wide receiver doesn't see the offense much, if at all. And then for the practice squad wide receivers, I have Reggie Bagleton and Juwan Winfrey. Now, Reggie Bagleton's been okay. And then Juwan Winfrey, really just a shame that we haven't seen much of him in this preseason. Actually, we haven't seen any of him in either of the games. But if you recall, during training camp, he was balling out. I would have really liked to see Juwan Winfrey play these preseason games. Obviously, if he's hurt, he's hurt. But I thought if he did play these games and did as well as he was doing in training camp, he could be one of these 6 or 7 wide receivers. But at this rate, it's too far too gone. He's already below Funches and Malik Taylor, definitely at this point. So he'll definitely probably make a practice squad here. Now, as for the cuts, I have Chris Blair as a cut, self-explanatory. Really haven't seen much, if at all, of him. And then I do have Equanimeous St. Brown as a cut, and that's only based on the fact that I think, well, I know the Packers are going to end up cutting him, but I think another team will claim him. I think another team, just based off of his size, speed, and I guess you could say potential, will claim him. Probably the Lions at this rate, because they do have his brother, and the Lions are the Green Bay Packers graveyard. So I think the Lions might claim him. So that's why I don't have him as a practice squad player. Now, if he goes unclaimed, I could see him definitely being a practice squad player for this team. All right, so now that we're done with wide receiver, we're going to be moving on to tight end, and I have 4 here. Now, obviously, Jay Sternberger is suspended for the first 2 games, so he will now not count towards the initial 53. They'll make that decision come week 3, right before week 3, if they want to cut another guy, keep 5 tight ends, or cut one of their tight ends and keep 4, or just cut Sternberger outright. So with the tight end position, the first 3 are locks. Bob Tunyon, Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara are all locks here, in my opinion. I think I've said it in previous videos. I believe Matt LaFleur has a lot of things ready for Josiah DeGuara, like he did last year before that injury. So I think those 3 are definitely locks. So then it comes down to your 4th guy. Now, Bronson Kaufusi has been impressive, and Aaron Rodgers has talked about him. So it might be another Jake Kumara situation. Do the Packers keep him just because Aaron Rodgers vouched for him and they don't want to go down that road again? Kaufusi has had a 75.9 pass block grade and a 71.0 run block grade. So very, very good blocking grade in PFF. And then, of course, you have Dominique Daphne. Now, I think this is kind of a toss-up. Daphne hasn't played in the preseason due to injury, but Daphne has that experience from last year. If they go Dominique Daphne, I think Bronson should definitely make practice squad. And I'm also cutting Isaac Nauta here. He hasn't really shown much at all. But like I said, this is a toss-up. I'm going with Daphne just based off that experience and what he showed us last year. But it could most definitely be Bronson here just due to the fact Aaron Rodgers has vouched for him, and I really don't think they want to go down that road again. All right, so now moving on to the last group of the offense, and we have offensive line. I'm going 9 total here, but it could change up some things if Bakhtiari isn't ready to go week 1, is put on the PUP or whatever, or stays on the PUP. I think he'll be ready. I think he'll get activated and he'll be ready to go by week 1. So I have Bakhtiari. Obviously, these guys are locks. Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Billy Turner, and I would say even John Runyon is a lock, and then also Royce Newman is a lock. Now, circling back to the Bach thing, if he isn't ready to go and he's on the PUP and doesn't count towards a roster spot, I do think Josh Nyman makes the roster. He's had a 78.6 PFF grade so far. Now, he did have a little bit of a shaky game week 1, a lot better week 2, but overall he's been a pretty decent left tackle. Now, for Lucas Patrick, I do have a question mark next to him because they could very easily cut Lucas Patrick. He's had a 53.7 PFF grade, and if they cut him, they save $2 million, which would roll over to next year's abysmal cap situation. Now, they have a lot of depth at guard right now, guards that have been playing really, really well in this preseason. Royce Newman has an 85.0 PFF grade, top guard, rookie guard this preseason in the entire NFL. Jacob Capra has a 90.6 PFF grade. Now he's only had 16 snaps, so that's why he's not the top guard. Cole Van Lanen, who's a tackle, could play some guard, has had a 74.3 rating. And then Ben Braden has had a 68.7, who also can play tackle and guard. So that kind of makes Lucas Patrick expendable. So if Lucas Patrick is cut or even traded for a late round pick, I expect either Cole Van Lanen, Capra, or Nyman to make the roster. As of right now, I have those 3 as practice squad guys, but it could really go either way. They could keep 10 and throw Nyman in there, depending on box status. Like I said, they could cut Patrick and put Cole Van Lanen in there. And then I have Coy Cronk getting cut. Coy Cronk somehow, even though he only had 16 snaps last game, put up a 3.9 pass block grade. I don't know how that's possible, but that was a pretty set in stone there that I'm going to be cutting him on my prediction. And then Jake Hanson's kind of the odd man out. Runyon ran some backup center over him in game 1. And although Jake Hanson hasn't been terrible, I just really don't think there's room for him. All right, so now moving over to the defensive side of the ball, we're going to defensive line, and I'm keeping 5 just like they did last year. Now, Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry both had 0 preseason snaps, so they're definitely locks. As much as you guys may hate Dean Lowry, I think he's 100% a lock at this point. Slayton and Kiki, I also believe, are locks as well. Kiki's only had 16 snaps due to only playing last game 16 snaps. He didn't play the first game, but an 82.8 pass rush. And as I said in countless videos, I have high hopes for Kingsley Kiki. So if you're keeping 5, that leaves you with 1 spot, and I'm going with the undrafted free agent out of Iowa, Jack Heflin, over Tyler Lancaster. Heflin has been very, very impressive in preseason thus far, with a 71.0 defensive grade, with a 64.8 run defense grade. And on the flip side, Lancaster has been the exact opposite. Now, if you remember, Tyler Lancaster was a restricted free agent. They did not tender him. They let him seek out other offers. He probably didn't get any that he even entertained. And then the Green Bay brought him back to the 1-year deal. Cutting Tyler Lancaster would save the Packers $1 million. And then as for his grades, like I said, exact opposite. He has a 44.7 defensive grade thus far, a 48.8 run defense grade, and a 56.8 pass rush grade. So all very, very bad grades there. Now I have Kemp and Previllen as my practice squad guys. Previllen has been pretty average. He's been okay. He's been getting a lot more snaps than Kemp, so definitely my main practice squad guy. And then for Kemp, I just have him on the practice squad, but the Packers could definitely bring in another guy that's cut off another team to the practice squad over him. And then, of course, that Tyler Lancaster cut. I think a team will claim him just for the fact of his experience, and a team that's very, very short on defensive line depth. All right, so moving over to the edge position. I am keeping 4, and really the only question is number 4. Obviously, Zadarius Smith, Gary, and Preston Smith are all making the roster, and then Randy Ramsey, I think, is going to be put on IR. So in my opinion, it's between Nalai and Garvin, who was a 7th-round draft choice out of 2020. Garvin's been better on special teams. He had a 63.1 grade compared to Naliai's 34.8 grade with 1 penalty. That's probably why it's so low. But Naliai has been better on the edge. He's had a 68.4 defensive grade compared to Garvin's 63.0. And he's also been much better in coverage on the edge there with a 77.2 grade compared to Garvin's 61.3. Now his tackle grade has also been better than Garvin's. A 72.0 compared to Garvin's abysmal 26.1. So in this case, I'm going to take the better edge player over the slightly better special teams player just because they're only keeping 4 edges, and the 4th edge guy does get some snaps at edge on defense. It's not solely just a special teams player. Now, the one that doesn't make it, in this case, I have it being Garvin. They'll definitely make practice squad. I have Chauncey Rivers getting cut. He could make practice squad as well. He's been okay. And then Delonte Scott I have being cut as well. All right, so now moving on to inside linebacker. And before Kamal Martin got cut, I had it at 6, which felt really weird. So now it's down to 5, which just makes a lot more sense to me. The only locks on this list, in my opinion, are Campbell and Barnes. Barnes has had 25 snaps this preseason, and Campbell has had 0. So that speaks volume to how they think of Campbell. They believe he's ready to go, starter week 1. These guys are linebackers 1 and 2. I'd say Oren Burks at this rate definitely makes it. He's been very, very impressive this preseason, and I know you guys can agree with me. A 74.8 run defense grade, an 81.5 tackle grade, an 83.4 pass rush grade, which is the best on the team this preseason, and a 63.9 on special teams, which is 11th best on the team. The only bad rating he has is in coverage. Now, as for Ty Summers, he has also been impressive this preseason. 81.5 run defense grade, an 81.4 tackle grade, which is great because you saw last year he did have some missing tackle issues, and he's been okay on special teams. Now, as for Isaiah McDuff, he has a lot less snaps, but he does have a higher overall grade than Summers by 0.5, which is barely anything, and he hasn't been that great on special teams, which is a little concerning because we I feel, drafted him to be a special teams guy. Now, there is a slight chance the Packers could choose Ray Wilburn over Isaiah McDuffie. He's been much better on special teams and much better on defense. He has a 73.2 defensive grade, but at this rate, I'm just going to give Isaiah McDuffie the edge because they just drafted him in the 6th round. And obviously they just cut Kamal Martin, who is, surprise to all of us. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like this happened at this rate. But I'm going to give the edge here to McDuffie because they literally just drafted him. All right, so now moving on to the cornerback room, and I've talked about this a lot. I think there's 5 locks, and there's 1 spot left. Obviously, the locks being Jair, Kevin King, Chandon Sullivan, Eric Stokes, Shamar Jean-Charles, and then that leaves 1 spot. That 1 spot, I believe, at this point is locked into KB and Ento. I think the Josh Jackson and Kadar Holman trades show that. KB and Ento, a wonderful story, wide receiver turned corner out of Colorado. He's been the best cornerback for the Packers this preseason with a 71.3 overall grade and also a 73.3 coverage grade. He's also had the most snaps, almost by double than any other corner. Second being Jean-Charles here, but almost double than any other corner this preseason. Ento's only allowed 2 receptions and also has an interception, and he's also been the best cornerback on special teams with a 66.0 grade. So overall, I think it's pretty certain if the Packers keep 6 corners, which I believe they definitely will, it's going to be KB and Ento. Now, obviously, they did trade Josh Jackson for Isaac Yiadom, but in my opinion, I didn't think he was going to make the roster anyways. It was pretty much more so sending Jackson to New York, getting something in return to see what he has. I believe he's going to be a practice squad player. He's had a 59.8 overall grade and a 64.7, so not terrible on special teams, but like I said, just a practice squad guy. All right, so now moving on to the safety position, and I have been saying this, I believe they keep 5 here, totaling their defensive back room to 11 players, just like it was last year. So now, as we know, Will Redmond was just put on IR, and I believe Vernon Scott is definitely making it. He's had an 85.1 tackle grade this preseason. And then Henry Black has also been very, very impressive this preseason, a 75.1 overall grade with an 81.5 run defense grade and an 86.7 tackle grade and a 66.5 coverage grade. Henry Black has been the best safety in preseason this year for Green Bay, and he's also had the most snaps, so I think he definitely makes it with Vernon Scott. So then that leaves Christian Uphoff and Ennis Gaines. Now, Uphoff has been much better on defense with a 66.7 overall grade to Gaines's 50.2, pretty bad. Uphoff is only also slightly lower on special teams compared to Gaines, a 64.1 compared to Gaines' 69.0. Nice. I've also seen some tape and some clips of Ennis Gaines looking pretty lazy on defense. That's definitely concerning. So Gaines does have a really nice story, and it would be cool to see him make the team, but overall, he had a lot better of a game versus Houston, but a pretty terrible game versus the Jets. And Uphoff has just been consistent through both, and I think there's not much of a difference there in special teams play, but there is on defense, so I'm giving it to Uphoff. I think it could go either way a little bit, but I still think it's definitely going to be Uphoff here, and just like outside linebacker, expect the one who doesn't make the 53 to definitely make the practice squad. All right, so now moving on to special teams, which really hasn't changed in a long time. We don't have to talk about Mason Crosby. He's the GOAT. I'm kind of confused why they didn't give J.K. Scott more competition this preseason, but kept competition with J.J. Molson for Mason Crosby. J.K. Scott is wildly inconsistent. And then as for long snapper, Hunter Bradley has not been impressive at all. He's been skipping long snaps off the ground. He has a PFF grade of a 40.8. The Packers should have just drafted Cameron Cheeseman. All jokes aside, I think the Packers could definitely replace Hunter Bradley before the 53-man cutdown, but they probably will keep him just for the fact of familiarity. So that does it for my 53. Now, I'm keeping 15 on practice squad right now because a lot of the time when other players are cut off other rosters, other teams will bring those players because they like them better than their current practice squad players. So I'm leaving 15. You could put kicker J.J. Molson on the practice squad just for the fact of they like to keep a kicker around due to the whole COVID thing. But yeah, so that's my 53-man roster. I want to hear down in the comments, do you agree with most of these? Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? Did I take someone off that you wanted on or vice versa? Let me know down in the comments below. And then obviously I'll update this when they cut down to 53, compare and contrast where I was right and wrong. And then also if you're not subscribed already, definitely consider going down and clicking that subscribe button. I put down a lot of Packers content during the offseason and during the years with games coming up, so definitely consider clicking that subscribe button and also liking the video if you did like this video. So on that note, I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.